Now, Standard Bank will be hosting its Business and Commercial Banking Conference next month under the theme Africa Unlocked, Unlocking Africa's Growth. It aims to explore the continent's vast potential and pivotal role commercial banking plays in its development. I spoke to the CEO of Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, Bill Blackie, for more insight on the upcoming conference. Here's that conversation.
When you look at the Standard Bank Group, Standard Bank is present in South Africa and 20 African countries. We actually, our group motto and tagline is, Africa's our home, we drive her growth. And so that's what the conference is centered around. It's really unlocking growth for the mid-sector, the mid-tier of South African and African businesses. And our goal is to bring industry leaders together, specialists, both locally and internationally, to debate and help small and medium-sized businesses to really unlock that potential that we believe that they have.
And I know you mentioned how important Africa's growth and development is to the bank. I guess this is why Standard Bank is hosting this, and just talk to us about that and the importance around the bank in particular hosting this conference.
Yeah, entirely more and more, Africa is becoming one integrated unit. So just to give you a sense of it, today we find that our biggest single trade bloc is actually Intra-Africa, as opposed to China, the US, or Europe, that historically used to be the biggest trade blocs. So we think it's very important to help companies come together, find each other, explore solutions together within Africa, so Intra-Africa. And that's really what our goal is.
Now, Bill, just talk to us about the importance of the conference and why Standard Bank is hosting it.
Yeah, thank you. Such a great question. So what we've done is we've very carefully curated an excellent set of speakers and panelists, really to help the participants in the conference get a broad perspective of the potential both in South Africa and Africa regions. And so in that context, we'll have people talking about energy. We'll have people talking about unlocking the growth potential of cross-border trade. We'll have people talking about the benefits of setting up offices in different parts of Africa. We also think that it's important to talk about how do family businesses grow. So, for example, if you look in Africa and internationally, it's typically family businesses that drive the mid-tier of the economy. And so having specialists talk about how they've done it, how they've taken their businesses from West Africa to East Africa, or from South Africa to East Africa, as an example. How they've gone through those hard yards and built real sustainable businesses.
So I guess a place to, meet up and engage with leaders and just exchange ideas on that front. Now, how does Standard Bank envision the role of commercial banking evolving in Africa over the next decade or so?
Yeah, if we go back a couple of years, the group board and our chief executive, Sim Chabalala, had a view that while banking had developed very well in the retail sector and in the CIB sector or the wholesale sector, what was important to do was to support the mid-tier of the economies. As I mentioned previously, actually, if you look at Europe, the US, China, etc., many of the more developed economies, this mid-tier actually is the biggest employer. It's the biggest source of or biggest consumer of capital in their economies. And it's the primary source of real and sustainable growth. And so as a bank, we think it's very important to be supporting this sector of the economy and helping those companies actually unlock opportunity from the very, very significant possibilities that exist on the continent.
And now I just want us to zoom in on those businesses the bank is trying to assist rather, and what key attributes should financial institutions have to support South African businesses expanding into Africa, and how does Standard Bank sort of fulfill those needs?
Yeah, so this is actually a very broad segment. So this segment stretches right from people who are starting their business from scratch So those people who've had a really good idea, they can see how they can meet a market niche, and they need a bank to help them set up an account, start to transact, etc. The segment stretches right up to large family-owned businesses. And the importance is that all those businesses, some of them have varying needs and differing needs, but so central to all of those is the principle that they all want to either start their business, manage their business, or grow their business. And growth typically is the thing that's on everybody's mind, is how do you take your niche and then grow into that and expand in the markets in which you're operating. So as a bank, we think it's very, very important to assist with the basics, assist with digital capability. Entrepreneurs tend to be time poor because they're putting their energy into building their capability. But at the same time, they also need advice. So they need to access somebody in banking who can assist them with what they want to do, be it trade with China or trade with the US or trade Intra-Africa, access to FX, access to renewable energy solutions. Energy is such an important part of the mix for small business. And so these are the things that we as a bank think that we should establish and make sure we make available to small businesses.
Talking about growth and how South African companies can leverage off of growth in other African markets, which markets in particular are showing the better prospects, the markets that South African companies should be jumping into?
Yeah, I guess the starting point is we should never forget what we have in South Africa. We've got huge installed capacity in South Africa, be it ports or rail or airlines or, one could go on, just energy, etc., energy availability. Notwithstanding some of the challenges we've had in the recent past, it's important to keep in mind that South Africa has huge installed capacity. So it's actually it's a great place to start business. Then when you look across the continent, many parts of the continent are growing faster than South Africa at the moment. So net, East Africa is growing north of 5% compound annual at the moment. Now that's very significant to see a big portion of Africa, the whole of East Africa, growing at that kind of a pace. Likewise, although West Africa tends to be more correlated or linked to energy and energy prices, you also see high growth rates in West Africa. And then, of course, SADC, which is much more closely linked to the South African economy, we do see pockets of growth here in SADC. And so it's important. We always think that the right thing to do is to think of this as a sort of a collage of opportunity across the African continent, which we're very well placed to assist companies with when they think about where do they want to go.
That was the CEO of Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, Bill Blackie.